Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to December 14th. This is the the continuation of we've just had literally an hour and a half discussion on finances, the coming kingdom, faithfulness with your resources, whether it's time, money, relationships, and we didn't record any of it, but it was powerful. Not because the words were of such great power, but because there was clarity that was brought to a topic that can be really, really confusing. And so at least that was the consensus of the people who were able to be on the call and to enjoy that time together. And so I thank the person who shared it and who opened up with an amazing question to open that person up to tremendous humility, to be able to say, I may be wrong. Could you help me, give me insights? And it opened up something that was fantastic. And as another person said this morning, they were anticipating that this Shabbat was going to be an amazing, amazing Shabbat. And I reiterated to that same person, I feel the exact same way, especially about this passage. One of my objectives and my goals with you every time we meet on a Monday or a Friday or a Shabbat morning is I don't want to just give you the same stuff, to reaffirm your missions, and I feel good about it because I know this and I win, Bible trivia, Friday night edition. I could give a rippity-doo-dah day as to how much Bible scriptures you have memorized, how many notches you have on your belt for your victories that you've expressed to people. Just, can we walk this walk together? Can we shore up one another? Can we encourage one another? Can we strengthen one another? Can we build one another up? Can we kick one another in the bohiney when we need it? Can we be bunker buddies? Can we be those? Can we have your six? Can we do all the things that we need to do in order to become who we need to be? And that's what counts. And the only way that's going to happen is if I understand what the call is. The call is not to accept Jesus as my savior. That's not your calling in life. Your calling is to obtain a position of ruling and reigning with the Messiah in the coming day. And we have lives that, like a rope, they bind us up and they keep us from doing the things that we need to do. We need to loosen those, thread our needle, use them for the glory of God, make our wedding garment, prepare ourselves for that coming day. And you'll say, but there's so many things to be done. Just do one. Just do one. Don't get overwhelmed. It's a big book. It's a big book. There's a lot of stuff inside of there. But you take things one at a time. I remember when I was in college and I would get books that were bigger and thicker than this. And we would cover it in an entire semester, and we had to read the whole blooming book. And then you had to be tested on it. And I'd go, no way, Yahweh. This book is doable. If it wasn't, God wouldn't have made it possible for you and I. What I want to share with you this morning is I want to take you to the 3 questions that you are going to be asked every single day of your life. These are the same 3 questions that Jacob told to his servants that he said that Esau was going to ask him. Now, these 3 questions are going to be important. So we're going to go back to our text and we're going to go to Genesis chapter 32. In Genesis chapter 32, I'm going to pick up the story here in let's see, on the wrong page. Oh, no wonder. I'm in the wrong book. I should just go by memory. It'd be a lot more effective. Genesis chapter 32, picking up in verse 17. So this is an extension off of a question that was asked last night by Hunter that I didn't answer very adequately. And that is, what about all these animals that are going to end up being sent off into these droves? So I'll let you go back and read Genesis chapter 31 Genesis chapter 32, 33, 34, and 35. And this morning, we're going to focus on three questions, what they mean for you, and how these three questions are going to be significant for you. If you answer these correctly, you win. If you don't answer these correctly, you will lose. No questions, no ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Win or lose. There's nothing in between. It's either yay or nay. Now, you say, well, I read the Torah portion via Shalach, and he sent, and I don't remember anything like this. Let's pick up here in verse 17. He says, this is after he is sending out his servants in droves, drove and drove. He's putting a space in between the three droves that he's going to send, the three groupings of animals. Verse 17. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, saying, who are you? Who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? Literally, what this says is, who do you think you are? This is question number one. Now, before we go to question number two and question number three, I have to ask you, Jacob hasn't seen Esau in 21 years. Why would he say that Esau is going to ask these three questions? Inquiring minds want to know. Because these are the same questions that you ask yourself every day. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, no exaggeration. Never forget where you've been. Always take inventory where you are, and never forget about where you're going. These three questions are the source of that statement. But I've never really explained to you that statement, except for just, that's part of the image of God. Remember where you've been so that you can kind of measure where you are. That's why for me personally, every Shabbat morning, when I wake up at early 30, before the sun arises on the horizon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I review every good thing that Yahweh's done inside of my life, every provision, every time where he manifests himself to me, every way he encouraged me, every wonderful conversation, even the way he used challenging times. Shabbat morning, I review everything where I've been, and I do that every month, and I do that every year at Yom HaKippurim. And I review the entire year, and you say, why? Listen carefully with your heart open in the deepest, deepest way. This is patterned after Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, and the way that you should treat Shabbat, how you keep Shabbat, how you guard Shabbat. When you review where you've been and you give the glory to God for his presence with you through the thick and through the thin, through the yays and the nays, the highs and the lows, when you stop to do that, then when you hit your droughts, your famines, your dry spells, your really difficult times, you'll be able to look back and say, oh, I remember God when you were here, and I remember God when you were here, and I remember when you were here and here and here. And just as you were with me in those times, I know you'll be with me now. But if you're anything like me, there's a tendency to forget and take for granted. But God doesn't want me to do that. Every week, he wants me to remember every good thing that he's done. It takes a while. From starting my truck to a safe trip back to the cottage, to the warmth and insulation of a cottage, to a warm bed, to bananas that I can peel. And Suzanne asked me one of the reasons why I like bananas because you are what you eat, and I need more appeal. And so, but then she told me, well, you don't eat the peel. And I go, no wonder I'm lacking that. So now, if I review every good thing, not my downfalls, not my shortcomings, not my faux pas, not my goobers. Nope, they've already been dealt with. The good things. So this morning, I need to ask myself the question, who is Esau? Why did Jacob know that he was going to ask these three questions? Why did Jacob give specific responses to those questions? And how do those questions impact me? So let's begin with Esau. First of all, here comes Esau. How many men are coming with Esau? 400. What's going through Jacob's mind? Oy vey. I'm in deep doo-doo. Things are not good. I'm up a creek without a paddle. It's called Stink Creek. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been blessed with all of this finance, all of this money, all of this cattle, all of this wealth. What I'm going to do is I've got to use my brain here. I know he wants to kill me. I already know. I've already talked with his servant Eliphaz 21 years ago and gave him all of my wealth so that I could be alive. I know he's coming to kill me. So I'm going to use, and I'm going to prepare for the future. Hint, hint, wink, wink, Britt, in our previous conversation. I'm going to prepare for the future. I'm going to send one drove ahead, a second drove ahead, a third drove ahead, three groupings of animals, and there's a reason why there's three groups. And he sends those animals ahead with his servants, and he says, when you meet Esau, he's going to ask you these three questions. And these are the questions, verse 17. When Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, saying, who are you? Where are you going? And who are these before you? Those are the three questions. But those questions don't mean anything to you and me because we don't have somebody to kill us. It's coming to kill us. We don't have cattle and all kinds of things, and we don't have to appease them. Or do we? Yes, we do. Now, I need to understand about Esau. So let's go back a few chapters, and let's go back to Genesis chapter 25. And I want you to notice something in verse 27. It's going to be important because why would Esau ask these questions? And how does Jacob know that Esau is going to ask these questions? And when he does ask you these questions, you better be ready to give this answer, nothing more, nothing less. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Okay. If I was taking notes, which I'm not, but if I was taking notes, I would write down that Esau is Isaac in excessiveness. Simply put, he is Isaac in excessiveness. You mean, well, what in the world does that mean? That means that he takes the strength of Isaac, a man of the field. Now look at Isaac and go back to Genesis chapter 24. Look at chapter 24 and look at verse 63. It says, and Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the evening, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, behold, the camels were coming. Here comes the bride. And so what he does is we see Isaac, he's in the field, but he's not hunting in the field. He's not being just a manly man in the field with great boots like Hunter bought me years ago with four-wheel drive and guns on his rack and traps in the back and a deer in the back. That's not the kind of man in the field that Isaac is. Isaac's a man in the field who's meditating in the field. He's an individual who's praying in the field. He's reflecting, as Hunter mentioned in Psalm 1 before we started the recording, Blessed is the man whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he does meditate day and night. He will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and whatever he does will prosper. But it's not going to prosper, Britt, from John chapter 3, verse 2. It's not going to prosper if you're not meditating in the Torah day and night. Sorry, you can make it happen. There'll be lots of people who make it happen with their wealth, with their fame, with all kinds of things. There's all kinds of Nimrods in the world who know how to make bricks and build towers that go to heaven. But not everybody can be like an Isaac. And Isaac was a man of the field who knew how to take the spiritual into the physical and knew how to use the physical within the spiritual. He knew how to marry both. And we talked about this extensively last week and put this in very practical terms. So Esau is Isaac in excessive fashion. What does that mean? Means he was only a man of the field. And this is why in verse 28, it says, and Isaac loved Esau, and Rachel loved Jacob, or Rebekah loved Jacob. Their love wasn't, I love this child and I hate this one. It's kind of like with my children. I had to give my children what they needed. And sometimes it looked like I was loving one more than the other, but I wasn't. I was seeing the potential in them. And I was pouring into them with the hopes that they would come around and rise to the level of what their potential was, that they would be a blessing both in the spiritual and the physical realm, which is really what God's calling us to. So what is this? What is these questions? And what is this Esau thing? When I begin to understand, listen carefully with your heart open in the deepest way, you have to go back and reflect upon our previous studies. And our previous studies, when I talked about in the womb of Rebekah, the bride of Isaac, in the womb of Alan, the future, Lord willing, Yah willing, his will, the future bride of Messiah, there are two entities warring. There's the Yetzer Hara, which we would call the evil inclination, and there's the Yetzer HaTov, which we'd call the good inclination. Now, the evil inclination is not evil. It's just driven by self. It's what woke me up at early 30 this morning. It's what got me out in the cold to come to the clinic early. It's what causes me to write or study or pray. That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is that inclination that says, I need to do this, and it's the motivation. It's what took Suzanne and I to the gym last night to go kick some major bohunkus on working out so that our bodies could maintain strength so we would be physically capable of doing the things that we need to do. That's the Yetzer Hara. It wasn't evil. We talked about the Lord. We loved on people. We cared. We did the different types of things. We maximized the opportunity that we had, not for self, but to invest for the sake of the kingdom yet to come. So the Yetzer Hara is that part of my life that says, this is what moves you. This is what moves you. This is what drives you. Now, when the Yetzer Hara becomes excessive and it becomes myopically focused, oy vey, it can be ugly as the day is long. Because then it all is about me and only me. It's not benefiting anybody else. And we dealt with this in our previous talk before we recorded. The Yetzer Hara is what protects you. The Yetzer Hara is your coping mechanisms. These are worth writing down. You need to know this. Because if you don't know this, you won't know why Esau is going to ask these three questions. And you won't know how to answer them when your Yetzer Hara answers them or questions you. or asks you, because you have two thoughts that are going in your mind constantly. Ones that are, what do I do here? I do this, and then I do this, and I do this. Your Yetzer Hara is, how do I cope with this? I'm going through this situation. How do I cope? How do I survive? It's my preservation. That's what it is. And how do I preserve myself? How do I survive? Not how do I glorify God? How do I survive? Now listen very carefully. The majority of us spend our lives in reactive mode, reacting. That's what the Yetzer Hara does. A situation happens and we react to self-preservation, to make sure that I'm protected, to make sure I'm going to survive. That's what I do. But I'm going to tell you, on the flip side of that coin, the Yetzer Hara is also proactive. Now I have to decide in life, am I going to be reactive or am I going to be proactive? If I'm proactive, I'm setting my course with expectations to the end. And if things aren't falling into line the way that I thought that they were, I just do micro adjustments. Versus going through life and not having any clue what I'm doing and just reacting to whatever comes. And then boom, before you know it, the number one feeling, listen very carefully, to a person who is reactive, the number one feeling they're going to have is, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm nothing but damaged goods. I've had all these things happen to me in my life. I don't even think I'm authentic. I'm such a hypocrite. I'm such a phony baloney. I'm such a liar, liar, pants on fire. My personal perspective of me, I'm not worthy of anything, and I need to do all these different types of things because I need to get my fix. I have something go through my mind. I was in 6th grade. I had a friend by the name of John Dubs. John Dubs was hilarious. On my little yearbook, he opened up a page where his picture was, and he took a bite out of the corner of my yearbook. And then he wrote a little note, and it said, on this piece of whitey whitey, I got hungry and took a bitey. John Dubs also came up to me one day and he said, Alan, I heard the kids on the playground talking bad about you. And I said, what? He goes, yeah. They used to, many of you know I don't have a belly button because I had a triple hernia when I was born. And so I just tell people, I'm Adam. He had no belly button. Okay, and so I don't have a belly button. And they used to say, and I was very dark complected, like Mexican. And so the kids would tease me and they'd say, you're nothing but a dirty Chicano with no belly button. And I would laugh and I would go, what? But it's stuck in my head, hasn't it? John Dubs came to me one day and he said, I was hungry. On this piece of whitey whitey, I got hungry and took a bitey. Okay, it's the only one I remember from all the ones in my yearbook. What a funny thing. And this is going to be a major point that I make. I'm going to connect it with this funny story. The kids on the playground are saying all kinds of stuff about you. And you know what? Crosses his arms. I stuck up for you. What are they saying? Well, they said you're not good enough to eat kitty litter. And I said you were. What a funny one. Those were his words. You know what? That's how we feel when the Yetzer Hara's in control. I'm unworthy. I'm not worthy of anything. And what happens is the Yetzer Hara, the Esau inside of us, that full-grown man, that thing that loves to take charge, that thing that has to have control. that one thing right there, it begins to make me feel like I'm unworthy. It makes me feel like I'm not good enough to eat kitty litter. I start becoming my own worst critic. I didn't say don't evaluate yourself. You become your worst critic. You become excessive. And inside your mind, you're saying things like, well, who died and made you king? Who made you think that you're a bag of chips and a whole lot more? I mean, who are you? What we end up doing is we end up overanalyzing right here. These are the three questions that are being asked. We begin to overanalyze. And when you start to overanalyze, as a fantastic man that Britt made mention of earlier, Zig Ziglar used to say, he goes, if you are constantly analyzing everything, your overanalysis is going to create paralysis. When you're trying to figure out, why did he say that? Why did she say that? Why did he look at me that way? Why didn't she respond to me this way? Why didn't he do me this way? And you're going to drive yourself to the funny farm. That's being reactive. That's Esau's excessiveness. When Esau asked the question here in verse 17, when my brother meets you and asks you, saying, who are you? Who are you? Who do you think you are? What are you boys doing bringing all this stuff? You need to have a specific response. This response is paramount. Whenever your Yetzer Hara is speaking to you and it's saying, who are you, Hunter? Who are you, Mary? Who are you, Joseph? Who are you, Nan? Who are you, Alan? Who are you, Britt? Who do you think you are? And don't play coy with me. We all have it. We all experience it like, am I worth anything? I mean, am I? Who am I? And you know what? He gives us the answer in verse 18. Now listen very carefully. You must know this answer. Must know this answer. You shall say, this verse 18, I'm a servant of Jacob. A servant of who? Jacob. You know that dude who you're coming to kill? I'm a servant of Jacob. I'm a servant of that one whose name is changed from Jacob to Israel. The one who came out holding the heel of his brother, protecting his head from being crushed. I'm a servant of Jacob. I'm a servant of Israel. I'm a servant of the one who literally, he became a man of the field as well as a man of the tent. That's who I belong to. That's why Yeshua is connected to Jacob. So you could say, well, I belong to Jesus. Great. That's fantastic. But don't forget, Jesus belonged to Jacob, who belonged to Isaac, who belonged to Abraham. That's why Yeshua is called Abraham's seed, not the other way around. You need to know who you are. You need to know when that inside, that internal dialogue is going, so-and-so is not treating me the way that I want to be treated. I must not be worthy of this. I've got to go find something that's going to give me validation and make me feel good. If you go that way, you're going to drive yourself to the funny farm, to the loony bin. You're going to be in the mental hospital in no time at all. You're going to bring on every addiction to overcome every drive of the dopamine in your system to give you that high to be able to make it. You need something substantial. When you're going out to face yourself, the Esau inside of you, when you're going to face that Esau, you have to face the Esau inside of you. You have to, because he represents that Yetzer Hara. If you choose not to do it because you're too proud, because you're too lofty, because you're too spiritual, you're a coward. You are a coward. I'm telling you straight up. You say, ooh, how could you say something like that? Because I know. One time in my life, I was a coward. One time in my life, I was a coward. One time. Never again. Never again. Ever again will I be a coward. Ever. I know what it means to be a coward. I know. If you can't face your Esau, coward. And we can't afford to be there. Not with the way the world's going. God's looking for men and women who are going to stand in the gap. God's looking for people who are going to prioritize him. God's looking for people who are looking beyond their own circumstances and looking out to their calling. I need to know that I'm a servant of Jacob. I'm a servant of the one whose name was changed. I'm the servant of the one who did something in the past to be able to validate who he was, to be the rights of the firstborn. But then from that point forward, whether you think it was deceitful or whether you don't think it was not, he took action. And then you know what he did? He spent 14 years working his Fanny Fofarkaloff. He obtained 4 wives. He obtained at least 13 children, 12 of them boys, one of them a girl, who we talk about in chapter 34. He worked 6 more years. He had his wages changed 10 times. He was manipulated under every circumstance. Yet he never, ever spoke evil of the one who was employing him, ever. And then he went and he followed God's call. But he knew he was going to have to face his past. This is what we struggle with, facing our past. Because we're worried about, well, what's so-and-so going to think? What's so-and-so going to think? What's this person going to think? What are they going to find out if I'm not as genuine as what I'm implying that I am? What if they find out I'm a liar, liar, pants on fire? Then what am I going to do? You need to know how to answer when you confront yourself, because you know what that Yetzer Hara is going to do? You know what that Esau voice is going to do inside of you? You're unworthy. You're not worth nothing. You're this, you're that, you're trash, you're this. And you have to understand who you are. That's the first question. Who are you? I'm a servant of Jacob. Servant does as his master does. I'm a servant of Yeshua. Now, don't call yourself a servant of Yeshua if you're not following him. Don't call yourself a servant of Yeshua, a child of the Most High God, walking in his ways if you're not doing what Yeshua did. Don't pull the Jonah. Oh, I fear the Lord my God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel. If you don't. Deal with life in real terms. You know what? I'm falling short. But as I told a person yesterday on the phone, when I fall down, I get back up. I get back up. I'll eat the crow if I have to eat the crow. But I'm going to get back up. I'm going to do what I need to do. First question. First answer. Hopefully that's something you go, You know, what's interesting to me is that in this answer, who are you? You know what I need to know? I need to know that I'm a nation. I'm the nation of Israel. And you know what I need to know? I'm on a mission. My mission isn't to make Faith Works a better place to be. That's not my mission. My mission is to honor the King by making Faith Works a better place, by bringing shalom to this place, by encouraging and building up the people who work here and run here and that bring in the income here, and to serve and to be quiet and to smile and to love and to do all the different types of things. That's my calling in this position. In other positions, I have other callings. But when I want to know who I am, so-and-so's talking about you, Alan. So-and-so's talking about you, Alan. So-and-so's talking about you. Okay. Well, tough titties, said the kitty, but the milk's too sour. It doesn't matter. I know who I am. And I know who I am because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You can say all you want to say. Who are you? Who are you boys? Now, don't you find it strange that, Esau could have said 100 different questions. Esau didn't know who these boys were. Esau's not met these boys before. Esau doesn't know any of this stuff. Esau doesn't know there's 3 droves coming his way. Esau doesn't know that there's going to be 3 servants that are coming his way that are going to ask the same questions, or they're going to answer the questions the same way. And Esau is going to ask the same question of those 3 individuals, both in body, soul, and spirit. He's going to ask the question in those 3 realms. And so you say, who am I? If I was in your shoes, which I've already done this week, I would be asking myself the question, who am I? Not who do I want Suzanne to think that I am, not who do I want Mariah to think that I am, not who I want Joseph to think that I am, not who I want Samuel to think. Who am I? Do I know who I am? Because the Yetzer Hara is going to rail you and grate you and sand you, and is going to try to take everything and take, this, what I call the mistaken syndrome, mistaken identity syndrome. I have to portray that I'm this, but am I really that? People say, fake it till you make it. I say, no, just do it and recognize that you're not that yet. Just start doing it and you'll become that, not faking it till I make it. I want to do it till I make it, not fake it till I make it. I don't want to pretend that I'm doing it in order to be able to get my mind wrapped around it. I want to do it so that I become. Now, that's the first question. The second question is, and where are you boys going? Where are you going? That's a really good question. Now I'm going to back up and I'm going to take a helicopter view real quick. I'm nothing more than putrid seed. And I'm going to be one day worm food, putrid seed. It's my Oreo cookie, a simple seed. 95% of the DNA inside of my body matches that of yeast. 95% of the DNA inside of me matches a chimpanzee. Do you know that 50% of me matches a banana? We already probably knew that one. 50% of your DNA matches a banana. Just going back into our story of the banana earlier. What was I? Who am I? Well, your Yetzer Hara will tell you at times when you're down in the daubers and circumstances are not so bueno, it's going to tell you you're worthless. You're just a seed that's rotten. It's when the seed dies to itself, that's when it brings forth life. And what am I going to be? You're just going to be dust. You're going to die. It's going to be over. Oh, no, it's not. So let me emphasize this for whatever reasons. The way you die is the way you enter into the new life. Don't think just because you've accepted Jesus as your Savior that you die a scoundrel here and all of a sudden you have angel's wings. It's not like that. All of your pain is gone. Sorry, Charlie. That's not the way it's going to be. The way that it is the way that you leave the life, is the way that you start in the next one. Boy, if we just knew our book, we'd probably live different today. We'd say, maybe that's why I'm supposed to be conformed to the image of his dear son. Maybe that's why I'm supposed to follow him. Maybe that's why I'm supposed to live and allow him to transform me from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Maybe so. Maybe I'm supposed to be sewing my wedding garment so that I can obtain the calling that he's called me to. Maybe I'm supposed to be the few that are called and chosen, not just the many who are called. Maybe. We just don't understand because we've been sold a bill of goods. Just say a simple prayer and you're going to die and go to heaven. Well, great. I don't know what your existence is going to be like in that coming day. But the last words I want to hear is, depart from me, I never knew you. You were workers of iniquity. The word for iniquity, by the way, anomia, is the word, or lo Torah is the phrase no law, no Torah. The people who don't walk in Torah, they'll hear, you're not part of this group, cast into outer darkness. The Torah is the way that you become conformed to the image of God. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. So he says, and where are you going? Do you know where you're going? I gave you two things. So literally, I have to take who I was in the past, and the Yetzer Hara is going to say, you're worthless. You were nothing in the past, and you're going to be nothing in the future. But actually, that in the past is what produced the present. And this in the present is what's going to determine the future. Death isn't final. That's just dust. There's a resurrection day. The question that you have to ask is, what is my inventory today that's preparing me for the future to come? So my action today before the King of Kings, knowing he's going to take an accounting of my own life, is what's going to determine my resurrection in the future. So where are you going? Well, I can tell you where I'm going. The answer is in verse 18. It's to bring you a present. I'm bringing you a present, Esau. I'm giving you something. I'm coming to meet you. I'm doing what it takes because I don't need you to control me. I don't need you to destroy me. I don't need you to overrun my life. So I'm doing what is necessary in my life to appease you to where now you are a valued part of my life rather than the controlling part of my life. I want the Yetzer Hara to be under me, to strengthen me, to lift me, to enhance me, to cause me to be who I need to be, not to control me and make me miserable. Where are you going? I'm coming to bring you gifts. I'm willing to confront myself. I'm willing to deal with those things that scare me. I'm willing to deal with those things that threaten me. I'm willing to deal with those things that create imaginations in my mind which exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. That's where I'm going. This is brave. This is bravery. This isn't cowardice. This is tough. And let me just add here. Do you know why we have a tough time with this? I'm fixing to tell you something. You know why we have a tough time with this? Because we're afraid that if we reveal ourselves to individuals, that they'll reject us, and we need to be needed. That's why we don't deal with our Esau's, our full-grown men, our strengths within our lives, that Yetzer Hara. We're not willing to confront it. We, speaking of me, myself, and I do a fairly okay job with dealing with me. But just to be frankly honest with you, I'm not a bag of chips and a whole lot more. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done in this fella. We had the privilege of meeting a guy named Chuck yesterday. He, with incredible wisdom, in a matter of probably about 3 minutes, I opened up and I was expressing to him across the dining room table you know, Chuck, I'm really a bag of chips and a whole lot more. I'm a salty dog. I'm solid spiritually, emotionally, physically, relationally. The only struggle I've really got is my finances, blah, 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 blah. Blah. Here comes the vomit. Self-justification vomit. And Chuck, with wisdom, being open and transparent, and this is something that Suzanne and I just marveled at him. He was really amazing. He'll be a great guy to team with and to do wonderful things with. He said, well, it sounds to me, Alan, like you're putting the cart before the horse. Which one is it? And so I responded in righteousness and the man who knows all the answers. Well, it's actually both, Chuck. He saw right through me like, who are you fooling? And I'm thinking to myself, not you. And he opened up a door that made me say, next Friday at 8:45, I want to have a phone call with you. Because as much as I think that I'm a bag of chips and a whole lot more, I recognize there's Esau's inside of me that I'm wanting to kind of keep under wraps. And what God wants me to do is he wants me to confront them, bring a gift to appease them, not to take Esau out of my life. I need Esau in my life. I need that man of the field in my life. I need that strength inside of my life. I need that power inside of my life. I don't want to kick Esau out. I want him to be under control. So he says, the third question, after who are you, where are you going, and who are these before you? Now, the word before right there, many of you would know, that's the word panim, face. That's what this is. Who are these before you? What is all of this stuff, and where are you going with this? I see what you're doing. You've come here to meet me, to present these for me, but where did all this stuff come from? And what are you going to do with all of this stuff? He gives the answer. They're present to you, my lord Esau. And behold, also the droves that are coming behind us. They're going to do the exact same thing. And I know you're going to ask the same question to the three groups. I know, just as I'm made up of three parts, a body, a soul, and a spirit. I know that there's three areas of my life that those questions are being asked: body, soul, and spirit. And I know that in every one of those realms, I want to make sure that I'm moving out to confront Esau, because I need to face him before I can go back to the promised land to receive the blessings that God has lined out for me. There's much more to be said, but I have a feeling that this is probably enough for the morning to tell you that these three questions that are being asked and these three answers, I need to know these. Because today, sometime, you're going to ask yourself these questions. Who am I? Where am I going? What do I plan on doing with this? And you need to know the answer. And if you're like me, and the answer is not solid inside of you yet, you need to go back and become a servant to Jacob. And you need to learn the ways of the man of truth, because that's who Jacob is. You need to serve. You need to be willing to do what he says. As Yeshua is spoken of in Luke chapter 1, verses 31 through 33. When it speaks about Yeshua, who will reign over the house of Jacob forever. I want to be a part of that. The greatest among you must become the servant of all. So I want to serve the man of truth with integrity, to do what he says, to be willing to confront the enemy within and overcome it with offering it gifts to appease it, not addictions, to satisfy it, to appease it, to take away its anger, its excessive desires to control my life. And then to open up the door to be able to say, and all of these droves, they're for you. I'm confronting you. And what I want is I want a future together with you. And that's why whenever Esau eventually comes and meets with Jacob, Jacob says to him, come, let's go together. And Esau says, no, I'm going to go over this way. That's what I need. I need Esau to recognize that I honor you for the drive and the power and the influence that you have in my life. But I'm not willing for you to control me. I'm not going to be controlled in fear anymore. I'm not going to treat myself as though I'm inferior. I'm a servant of Jacob. I'm a servant of the one who brought forth the Messiah. I'm the servant of the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if I know that, not just in theory, not just in title, but I know that because that's my action, when I have those self-doubting moments, guess what God does? He goes, do you remember who you are? I go, yes, sir, I do. Good. Then appease that. And let's go get some work done. Well, let me end the call and wish you a great Shabbat, and I'll open it up for questions and hopefully answers. And Shabbat Shalom.